Hello, and welcome to an episode of The Brain Game Changer, how heartfelt stories, awareness, and education can change the game. Each week, we delve into the experiences of amazing humans, advocates, and organisations from all walks of life who share their adversities, the triumphs after tragedies, the milestones, and those brain game-changing moments right here in front of the mic. Through this journey together, we may find that we can learn some valuable tools, knowledge, or education that will lead us into becoming game changers for ourselves, for someone around us, or even for our community. My name is Melissa. Thank you for inviting me into your space. It is great to be with you. Welcome to the final episode of Season 1. We have so enjoyed the experience of all the wonderful interviews, and I feel really humbled that we had the wonderful opportunity to finish this season in speaking with Creative Director of the Focus on Ability Film Festival, Ryan Goodwin. As it enters its 14th consecutive year, Nova Employment presents this festival asking filmmakers to focus on the ability of people with a disability and tell a story on film for the world to see. In this interview, Ryan shares how the opportunity presented itself to work for Nova Employment and how CEO Martin Wren birthed the idea of the festival, which has grown tremendously. He talks us through its first years and how it is now globally recognised as one of the largest short film festivals. We discuss some examples of previous films and winners, both here in Australia and overseas, and how you can also play your part in creating awareness about such a worthy and wonderful event. Throughout this interview, it was evident that Ryan is passionate about such an amazing concept that has changed so many lives and created such heartfelt and positive awareness. Now let's get into the interview. Good afternoon, Ryan, and welcome to the Brain Game Changer podcast. It is wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you, Melissa. I really appreciate you giving us this platform to talk all things focus on ability.
There's many hats to you, and we're going to discuss both of them, all of them, many of them. Before we start, I'm just going to share how I came about the Focus on Ability Short Film Festival. I happened to be watching SBS one evening. I'm a bit of a sucker for their cooking shows, and then the advert came on for the film festival, and I sat there curious as anything, just going, I have never heard of this festival. And then I literally got on my computer straight away, researched, found it. I'm just really grateful that you guys have agreed to talk with us, and I look forward to sharing all this wonderful information about the festival with all our listeners.
Yeah, I'm glad you found us and looking forward to this chat.
As I ask everybody, we get a bit of a backstory about who we interview. So I'm just going to ask you a little bit about your upbringing, where you're from, your studies, and how you segued into this industry.
Yeah, so this is probably one of the first for me. I'm more sort of the person on the other side of things. So let me see how I go. So I grew up in a small town outside of Rockhampton, a little town called Gracemere. So I think I've still got that small town roots within myself, even though I grew up there. Then I moved overseas when I was 18. I moved to London. I was looking just to see the world. So did lots of traveling and just really broadened my mind and my perspective, growing up in such a small place. It has some wonderful benefits. I mean, you've got that really community feel, but sometimes you can fail to see the world on the scale that it is. So I put myself out of my comfort zone, traveled overseas, just mixing with all different kinds of people from all walks of life, I think gave me a better understanding of the world. And then I moved back to Australia and did some work around the country, but then ended up in Sydney. So I spent the best part of 16 years in Sydney, and now I've just moved up to Queensland. I've got a young family, so I'm looking to give them that sort of small town upbringing as well, I guess. Education-wise, I studied journalism with communications degree. Halfway through the degree, I think got more of an understanding of perhaps where the media landscape was going, where journalism was going in my mind was perhaps where it has gone in some instances. I think the clickbait journalism and the sort of sensational headlines are something that I didn't want to go down. So I had an opportunity from Nova Employment. They approached the university that I was at. They were looking for somebody on a 6-week contract to come into the organization and teach them some video communication skills, some presenting skills. Things like podcasts were just sort of in its infancy stages. So I went there on a 6-week contract, loved everything that the business was about, met some wonderful people. And at that end of that 6 weeks, we sort of had a mutual understanding that there was so much more that we could achieve. And the CEO, Martin Wren, who we'll talk about in more in depth soon, I said, "Would you like to come work for us?" So spent the time there in my last semester of uni, and then started full time from there.
It must have been so reassuring to know that as soon as you finished university, there was a job waiting for you, and that taster of experiencing the company and the organisation. It sounds like it was a win-win for everybody. Can you explain to us what Nova Employment is?
Yeah, so Nova Employment is a disability employment service based in New South Wales. Part of our tagline is the Premier Disability Employment Service. It's a not-for-profit charity, so it's all about putting the needs of the clients first. The thing with disability employment, so it's a bit of a rabbit hole if you wanted to go down it, I guess, but the philosophies behind Nova Employment are always achieving meaningful and life-changing outcomes. I think there's sometimes outcomes within the industry that are incentivized-based rather than life-changing. So coming from the not-for-profit side of things, we could really focus on creating those life-changing outcomes, jobs at award wages and conditions in the general community. So no sort of isolating work that can sometimes not lead to long-lasting change.
Most of the employment that you're seeking for your clients, a majority of these clients have some adversities or some disabilities. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's the case. So to be eligible, we like to see Nova Employment as a bit of an elitist service. So the elitist service is you can't come to Nova Employment unless you've got a disability. So if you come to Nova, you've got a disability, we'll help you find a great job.
Ironically, I spoke to a different person that I'm interviewing for our next season, and they had heard about Nova Employment. I'm interviewing a woman with Down syndrome. And I spoke to her mum, actually, and her mum, when I talked about Nova Employment, she's like, "Oh my gosh, an amazing organisation. I've heard of them." And she gave examples of other people who also recommended and gave great respect to your organisation. And we're very lucky that you're out there doing this.
Yeah, it's wonderful to hear that feedback. When I first started working for the company, part of my role was going out there and interviewing some of our clients and their employers. And I think that was what got me hooked on the job, because I was hearing these life-changing stories and these life-changing outcomes. And, I wanted more people to hear that to create more opportunities.
It's so brilliant that you're doing this. So I'm going to segue from already this amazing work that you're doing with Nova Employment. We're going to talk now about the Focus on Ability Short Film Festival. Where did the idea birth from?
Martin Wren, the CEO of Nova Employment, he came up with the concept, the Focus on Ability Short Film Festival. So then it was all designed initially to be around Sydney-based high schools that operated within the regions that Nova Employment did. So the first year of the festival, we had, I think, about 16 schools participate, and that was all due to us sort of calling up the schools, letting them know. I think we had about $1,000 cash prize. And off the back of that, we received some tremendous entries from the schools that really sort of put their hearts on the line and told these amazing stories. I thought from my side of things, my job was done. It was the end of the festival, good things. And then Martin said, "Let's go again." So we went again. I think the second year we went New South Wales schools. That was a success again. And then we opened it up to Australian schools. And then things just sort of snowballed from there, essentially, because we ended up opening it internationally. And we're in our 14th year this year. We've had more than 50 countries participate, more than 2,000 films submitted. That's kind of where we're at.
I've had the fortunate opportunity of also having a conversation with Martin. What an absolute trailblazer. And he's such a storyteller as well. So I can understand why he wanted to bring stories and connection into film. What is the criteria? How does it work?
Short film, so 5 minute or less creation, and it has to have a disability theme. So that can be, focusing on the ability of people with disability. It can be telling us stories behind their disability. It can be people with disability acting within a scripted movie. So there's lots of ranges within that. I mean, over 2,000 films, I've watched them all, and I'm surprised by each film. They're all different. They're all got different stories to tell. The opportunity and the thoughts are endless. Everybody can participate worldwide. We've got schools categories, so within schools within Australia and New Zealand, so people can submit work on behalf of the school. And then we also have open entrance, so anybody within Australia, and then we have international entries too. So definitely a fully inclusive festival.
So once someone or an organisation has submitted their film, it's obviously a certain date that it's got to be in by. What happens next?
Yeah, so all the films are submitted. So it's generally a date within the middle of the year. I'll keep this open-ended, so that way I'm sure this podcast is going to be a hit. So people are going to come onto this podcast at different stages over the next few years. It's a continual festival. Entries close in the middle of the year. Then we have about a 3-week process where I'm working my butt off in terms of getting those films ready, allocated, up on our website. And then we have a launch. So we have a week-long voting process. So people from all around the world get on and vote for their favorite films. We also have a professional judging panel that check out the films. And then we also have Nova Employment, the head sponsor, a great organization, also picks their favorite. And so there's plenty of different ways to win. And then those films live on that website then for the next 10 years. We've created a film database that is the world's biggest disability film database. So some amazing things that have come from that. There's stories of some of the local children's hospitals that use our database in terms of education. So parents that have just received perhaps a diagnosis for their child, they type in what that diagnosis or what that disability is. They see some amazing content from our films, and they've received that education and realized some next steps forward.
So tell us about that event. Martin did describe it. He goes, "Oh, it's a glamorous red carpet event." That was the wording he gave. So can you tell us about it?
It's grown every year, obviously, apart from the last couple of years, but we're going back to it. So essentially, think of any great big film festival in the world. Think red carpet, you think media wall, you see cameras, you see the opportunity for people to mingle. There's canapes and drinks and that sort of real great energy pre-show. Everyone goes in, and then we put some of the films on the big screen where we've got people with disability that are performing, and then we also have to give out the awards throughout the night. So the energy and the buzz that continues on through that is amazing. It's definitely the highlight of our year.
It's amazing from where you birthed the idea to where you are now, 14 years down the track, and that you've created all these different categories. You're getting all these different entries from all over the world. When I checked out your website, you've got this beautiful part. It says Ryan's faves, Martin's faves, and Paula's faves. And we'll get into who Paula is. And oh my gosh, you've got all these amazing sponsors, but one of them needs to be Kleenex tissues. And it wasn't because it was sad, it was because it was so beautiful. These films, the thought, the process, the ideas. When you've talked about these films and gone on your tour of promoting it, what sort of philosophy are you presenting to everyone?
Martin Wren's initial concept, it was twofold. So the idea behind it initially. So when he wanted school students to participate, yourself as a teacher, you would know that the minds of the youth are the easiest to influence. Unfortunately, once we get older, we get very fixed in our belief systems. The first important message was to let people know that within the school systems, people with disability need to be included. People with disability need to be part of the discussion. People with disability need to be part of everyday society, especially within initially that school system. We found with the festival, it had a twofold effect. It had students understanding disability, and then it also reduced bullying within those schools of people with disability, because those barriers were being taken down. Those stories were being understood. The next part of that was then the films being watched from a wider community sense. So people that perhaps don't have much interaction with people with disability would watch these films and understand the barriers that sometimes may be faced, sometimes the barriers that may be overcome, and understand that people sometimes just need to be given an opportunity, and the festival needs to help drive those opportunities. So that was sort of what was in the start. And then as the years have gone on, I think from my side of things, I understand what my skill set is. My skill set isn't the amazing talents that are on show. My skill set is helping this vehicle move along, and then people can watch the films and we can create change from that. Initially, yes, we work for Nova Employment. So the long-term goal was employers to watch these films and create employment opportunities for people with disability. But as the years have gone on, we've seen opportunities in all walks of life, whether it be sporting opportunities, school opportunities, film opportunities in terms of being on the big screen. And it's all about inclusion. Our message is simply just inclusion. That's kind of like the philosophy behind it. One of the things that you've touched on is that we get to do these screening events around the country, and we've done them worldwide. And part of my role is to then create the playlist for these events. And what I notice within the events is you can kind of really mold people's feelings within that hour or hour and a half space, because the films can be funny, the films can be inspiring, and I understand the word inspiring and inspiration when it comes to disability can be a tricky one, but I'm not actually talking about, a person with disability just getting out of bed and they're all of a sudden an inspiration. No, I'm talking about a person with disability that is climbing Everest, or that's achieving amazing things in the musical space. I'm talking about inspiration that anybody would feel within that category. And then you've got highly emotive films, so films that make people cry, and then we've got educational films. So I understand the power of the film that we're pushing across and the roller coaster of emotions that can create.
I'm going to share an example. So when I did have the wonderful opportunity of speaking with Martin, he explained the process of one of the films. A young man entered it. I don't remember the name, but he talked about the journey that it created for this man, and he'd done very well with the film. He'd won it in his category, and some of the prizes and some of the opportunities that you have is that he was then able to present it at a different film festival in LA. He went on to write other films after it, and then ironically on his sort of world tour that he decided to take it with, he ended up at the Cannes Film Festival, and both of his films got bought, and he made a lucrative amount of money and then decided to retire. I mean, who knows where these opportunities can take us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, earlier I mentioned Paula Duncan for the listeners out there, especially the global listeners. She is one of Australians' most sort of iconic TV industry actors who's been in some really significant shows throughout the decades. I mean, I'm of that age. I remember Prisoner. Like you, I lived in England for 15 years nearly, and it's iconic over there. Cell Block H, it was called. So how did someone like Paula come into contact with your film festival?
Paula Duncan is not only a wonderful actress, but she's a wonderful human being. We had some interaction with Paula initially through Nova Employment. Nova Employment were sponsors of an event that Paula Duncan Promotions put on. So Paula has an Order of Australia medal that is associated with her great work in fundraising for different community organisations, but she's got a real specialty and a real love of raising funds and awareness for people with disability. So there was a really great synergy there. We got to talk to her about the film festival and obviously her charity work. And we realized that these two are a match made in heaven. So we brought Paula on as an ambassador for us. Paula links us up with some amazing sponsors, judges, and gives us some really great industry recognition. So Paul has been a wonderful asset to the festival and has really helped us get to the stage where we are now.
That's brilliant. It's funny that you mentioned the sponsors and the prizes. The prizes are really impressive. Can you give some examples of what they are?
The biggest prize for Australian listeners, Australian participants this year is a new car. So we've given out a brand new car for the last few years. So last year it went to a community organisation called the Sunshine Troupe. So that's a disability dance theatre group up on the Sunshine Coast. So they were rapt to take a receipt of that vehicle.
Oh, I have no doubt.
We have some amazing cash prizes. We've got also Money Can't Buy Industry Experience prizes. So we link aspiring filmmakers up with directors. I'm talking about directors that have done some amazing work, some current directors on things like Home and Away, Neighbours, and we give them those one-on-one opportunities. So, and then with schools, there's sort of printing equipment, camera equipment. The list goes on. We have over $100,000 in cash and prizes. I don't think there'll be many film festivals, short film festivals, particularly in the world, that are bigger than us in terms of prizes. So yeah, the sponsors have been amazing and helped us get to where we are. Last 2 years we haven't been able to with COVID, but we're back this year and back in future years with the red carpet event. So we get to showcase some of those amazing films on the big screen. We have some wonderful performers, and yeah, we just have a real celebration of the festival. And then a very select few on programs like SBS. SBS has been a great supporter of ours. That's kind of how the festival runs. We also do localized events. So we're back on the road again this year where we're doing screenings in most states around the country. And those events are always free. People that have been participants in the films, it's kind of my energizer for every year. You know, we put these events on. People turn up, they see themselves on the big screen. They're film stars for the day. There's so many comments, best day of my life sort of thing. It's people that are sometimes not given these chances, not given these opportunities, and they're definitely the stars of our festival and the stars of those days.
You brought up a point that I was, funny enough, going to ask you. So obviously everyone in the world's been impacted in some way because of COVID. What did you have to do over the last 2 years? Did the festival still run? What was your process in organising it?
Yeah, so the festival still went ahead. You sort of had that sort of nervous period of time before entries closed, wondering if we're going to get entries this year. But the message that we're trying to convey of inclusion is a worldwide message that something like COVID wasn't going to stop. People wanted to tell these stories. People wanted to have the opportunity to use our platforms. We kicked on, a lot of the festival is based online. We host the films on our website. So that process remained the same. We still actually had screenings in a couple of our African nations that participate. I can probably tell you more about that as well. We put together on an online virtual awards night. So people around the world, I'm a bit of like a stats person. And so I was on there, I launched it, and then I could see, you can sort of track on YouTube, you can see where people are coming from, and just seeing all these countries from around the world, people checking it out was a really great thrill. So it gave us an opportunity to showcase those films and still present prizes in somewhat of an entertaining way. But we're very much looking forward to getting back in person and later this year.
You mentioned the word Africa and the films and the influence of Africa. Can you tell us about that?
I mean, it's hard to believe when I think about the initial 14 years ago Sydney schools to the fact that how worldwide we are and some of the things that come up on a regular basis. So I think I've been to Africa maybe 5 times now. We've been to the US a few times. We've kind of been around the world. But the African side of things, we've got what I would call maybe a subchapter in Malawi, and now we've got a subchapter in Ethiopia as well. Part of that is we've got people within those countries that are spreading the word, focus on ability, encouraging people within those communities to make short films, participate, showcase people with disability within those countries. And then we have an awards ceremony within those countries to really highlight their skills and abilities as well. So they've been, sometimes I pinch myself when I'm at those events, because to think that our small concept is one that's been embraced worldwide is amazing. And then, yeah, Ethiopia last year was the first year we've taken that on. Ethiopia, funnily enough, is the number one social media user in the world.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of those countries that in some instances feels left behind, but they've got this really educated youth that are looking for a platform to tell their stories and share their work. So they've really embraced the festival. We had 33 films come from Ethiopia last year, and we're probably going to get about 60 to 70 this year. And the stories that are being told are incredible. We had a red carpet event there last year, so it stopped ours in Australia, but nothing could stop Ethiopia. There was a civil war happening. There was a civil war happening on the edge of the city.
Wow.
And I was spending some time with our organizer, and I was like, what are we going to do? I'm guessing we're going to have to cancel. And he's like, no, that's fine. The Prime Minister had gone to the edge of the capital to fight, and I was like, oh, what's going to happen? He's like, no, we just move it to a daytime event. It's fine.
Oh my God!
They hosted a 3-day festival there where they had a bazaar. So what is called a bazaar, but it's kind of like a market for people with disability to show their wares. So people from all over the town came in and would purchase all these amazing artworks and things on display. And then they had local cinemas play the films for a day. And then they had a big red carpet awards event.
It's admirable in hearing you talk about that situation. And this country in the midst of a civil war, they're like, oh, no, this show is going to hit the road. How admirable, how amazing. I'm going to share an example of one of your films from Africa, and it's a beautiful boy and his limb difference. And he's working out who he is, and he wants to join into the sports, but it's difficult for him. It's challenging. But then he meets someone and watches them dance, and their limb difference as well. And he ends up practicing, learning, and becomes part of this dance organisation and have featured around the world. But it also leans into his mum's words about it all. And she initially thought that she had been sort of, I guess, cursed is the word that she'd used. And then at the end, she says, my beautiful son, he's a gift from God. And, again, the tears are running because it's beautiful. But it's just so heartfelt and so amazing. And he's so raw and honest. And it was just beautiful on all levels.
Yeah, that's one of the amazing stories. I mean, I've met Blessing, so his name's Blessing, and he is from Zimbabwe. So I was in Zimbabwe, I think, about 5 or 6 years ago, and we decided we wanted the dance troupe to perform. So his dancing skills are just out of this world.
Yeah, I can't put it into words, his ability, and also his mindset. He was always determined to make the most of his life in what way he could.
So people can just type in Walking Tall, Focus on Ability into their Google browser. They'll find that film.
I just want to ask, I know this is a loaded question, and on your website where you put Ryan's faves, you've seen hundreds, you've seen thousands of films over the last 14 years. What are your favourite films, or what film stays with you? It's almost asking you which one's your favourite child, I guess, but is there some films that just sort of automatically come to you?
Oh, yeah, that is a favourite child kind of question, and I think it changes. I've been heavily impacted by a number of films, and it changes over the years. Unfortunately, we've lost some of the film stars over the years. Some of the films have ended up being sort of tribute pieces, but parents have got in touch, and they were so happy that their child had been part of the festival because they've got this keepsake then. So things like that can heavily impact. Plus meeting the people that within the films, I think sometimes change my opinion as well. I mean, I've got a young boy at the moment. He'll start school in a few years. There's a film, I'll talk about one in particular. There's one called Jack Outside the Box. A young man on the spectrum, and he had trouble within the school system, being bullied, an incredibly intelligent young boy who then turned to homeschooling, had a very supportive family, and he tells his stories and how life is starting to open up for him now that he's sort of understanding what his skills and abilities are. So that's such a beautiful story, but it also kind of, it's a motivating one. I want people with disability not to go through those hardships within that schooling system. So the more education that we can provide on this platform for people to understand that we need to be inclusive, bullying's not okay. And yeah, so that's one that's probably stayed with me.
We've come a long way from where we are, but we've still got a long way to go. I'm going to make a connection to the film that you've just said, because another one that I watched, it was with a beautiful boy named Marcus. And he does a video of a timeline about his life of living with autism. So obviously he must have got a young boy to act him, being him when he was younger. He does a dialogue of his early thoughts and understandings that he was different. And the questions and the things that he asked, like I'm just going to read out some sort of comments and quotes that he said. He said, "Does God have autistic moments?" That was one question he asked. Then he says, "I'm fascinated by normal people. I find them weird." And I think he's got a point. And then he also said, "I was convinced no one would love me on this planet. We are not broken, just different." It's so powerful. It's life-changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, wonderful dialogue. It's wonderful message. And it's one, I know Martin's pointed you in the direction of that film. That's one that's really stayed with him. And yeah, that was made by a local school within Sydney, Kellyville High School. They're regular participants at the festival. They really understand what the festival's all about and what the festival's trying to do. They tackle a range of topics every year. And yeah, they come up with some amazing messages and highlight messages such from Marcus.
Going forward, what are you hoping that this film festival is going to do? What's on the horizons?
Well, Martin would always say worldwide domination, and he wouldn't let me say anything different, I don't think. Look, where it's come from and where it is today, I fathom to think where we may be in 5 or 6 years. We're going to keep on doing what we're doing, being open to opportunities, being open to showcasing the festival in different areas. Just today I was receiving films from France, I received films from Uganda, and I received a film from Canada and some local schools. So the films are coming in, the stories are coming in, the viewers will come in once we showcase, and people are addicted to this festival. And I think that's probably one of the things that I feel the best about when it comes to the festival is the repeat business in some way, because we have schools that come back every year and keep participating. We have filmmakers that come back, keep participating. We have film stars that want to be in more films. And we find that different organizations love to share the films and love to utilize the films, whether it be, like I said, local children's hospitals, whether it be schools. We've talked to different large businesses that open up their Friday meeting with a film from our festival just to kind of set the tone. So yeah, we'll keep doing what we're going to do. The festival's not stopping anytime soon. Hopefully people like yourself keep coming across the festival and using this wonderful platform to educate and show more people that they need to check it out.
Trust me, I'm going to plug this to no end. The films we've talked about and the impact that this festival is providing for so many people. So we've obviously talked about people who are submitting the films. However, is there the opportunity for people to come work with the film festival? Can people volunteer their time? How do people come on board to create more awareness and work alongside you?
The number one thing we need is people like yourself, Melissa, people that sort of almost become our ambassadors for the festival. Tell your friends about the festival, tell your family about the festival, share our films online, because the more people that we can have within our collective group of viewing these films, the more people that can be educated and the more inclusive society that we can create. So the easiest thing people can do, it's completely free. Get on our website, check out some films, share the ones that you feel most influenced or most touched by, and tell people your reasons for that. Share them on social media. We're on all the social media outlets at the moment. So yeah, that's how people can get involved.
Spreading the word, creating awareness, having conversations. As Ryan has said, get out there, plug it, get involved, make a difference. So the name of the podcast is called The Brain Game Changer, How Heartfelt Stories, Awareness and Education Can Change the Game. What is one vital tool, one nugget of information or advice or awareness that you want to give our listeners?
Oh, that's a very good question. One of the things that I think is super important is understanding that people have challenges. Everybody has a challenge. Everybody has a point of difference. I mean, there's no two human beings in this world that are the same. And I think we need to understand that we're not more important than the next person. And I think we need to work together. I think there's lots of opportunities in this world to create division. And I think we need to understand that an inclusive world is a better world moving forward. So look after people, look after your neighbor, look after your friends, be inclusive of those that come from a different community that you may not think fits within yours. People have got all the tools that we do. Let's work together and let's keep working towards a better world.
Ryan, that is so well said. I think the world is a better place because organisation like Nova Employment, the Focus on Ability Short Film Festival, it's a beautiful ray of light and we're lucky that you're in it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Melissa. Thank you very much for taking the time to showcase this festival within season 1. I know this podcast is going to be a big hit, so to be on season 1, that we're very thankful for that opportunity.
Well, do you know what, Ryan? I think in saying that, I'm going to put it out there right now. It'd be great to have you back to talk with us again, especially after the awards have taken place, to get the feedback and to hear how it was for everyone. It'd be great to have you back.
Well, let's do it.
All right, great. Thanks very much. I want to thank you for listening to this episode today and supporting the Brain Game Changer and the guests we interview. I hope it added some reassurance or valuable tools, no matter how big or small, that will continue assisting you in being the wonderful game changer that you are. The best way to support the Brain Game Changer podcast is to like, share with family and friends, or subscribe, so each weekly episode is easily available to you. I'd love to hear your feedback, and you can also find me on Instagram at The Brain Game Changer. Drop in and say hello and check out the regular posts about awareness and education on various important topics and issues. Until next time, sending lots of love and light your way and looking forward to sharing the space with you again soon. Take care.